Esther, a tale. Esther is the latest of all the books in the Orthodox Jewish canon, written about 150 BCE. I think there's earlier versions of this than that, but in honor of the recently established Feast of Purim, the origin of which traces to what the author considers to be imaginary events in the 5th century. Mythical would be a better word. As so often in Jewish literature, the immediate purpose of the work is obscured by the sheer narrative skill of the writer in creating absorbing incidents and realistic characters. Morally, the book is on a low plane in its spirit of bloodthirsty revenge and sleeping away to the top, right? But aesthetically, it remains one of the greatest of tales. And it doesn't mention God, and that sort of thing. So there's reasons why some people among the Protestants wanted to kick it out of the Bible. But none of them focus on the part that Esther is really a version of Ishtar, and Mordecai is Marduk lives. And the Hebrew year is based on an event in Haran regarding the cult of Marduk. Sort of a usurper entity that was considered to be a deity that took over the roles of the 50 others. And it's interesting that the Hebrew date corresponds to an event that led to the migration was supposed to have occurred following that. But Isis, Osiris, and various similar things to Ishtar and Marduk, but Esther. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. I don't remember the Aramea spelling, but this is Ahasuerus, who reigned from India even unto Ethiopia over 127 provinces. And in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the courts, and the court of the garden of the king's palace were white, green, and blue hangings, fastened with cords of fine linen and purple, to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black marble, and they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel, for so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Also Vashti the queen, I don't know the spelling, probably Washti or something, but might be spelled with different letters even than Wow, Sheen, Tau, maybe it's at that, I don't know, but made a feast for the women of the royal house, which belonged to the king Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mahuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass. I wonder what those mean. Could be part of a symbolic message. And the 7 chamberlains, yeah, that's reference again to Ishtar and the 7 planets, but served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command by his chamberlains. Therefore, was the king very wroth, and his anger burnt in him. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew the law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshena, Shathar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlain? Some drunk guy wanting to show off his wife. That's, doesn't start off well as a moral tale, but, and some people say, see, she should have obeyed him no matter what. And it's like, there's principle limits, right? And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen. Maybe the queen just, knew how the king was drunk, and it's like, I'm staying away from you when you're except when you're sober, right? Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout the empire. For it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. Maybe the parentheses are something that was added in the King James, because there is incidences of that. Maybe it was added in the Greek or the Latin, but not the Hebrew. And I'm not sure, right? I'd have to see the text to know, and the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan, for he sent letters unto all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeared, he remembered Vashti, and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Haggai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them, and let the maidens, which pleaseth the king, be queen instead of Vashti. Y'all know that's a euphemism, right? And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Yair, the son of Shema, the son of Kish, a Benjamin, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, the king of Yehuda, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away, and he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Marduki, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house to the custody of Haggai the keeper of the women, and the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were met to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Esther had not shown her people, nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now, when every maid's turn was come to go in to King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women. For so were the days of the purifications accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. Then came, and thus came every maiden unto the king, and whosoever desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women into the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Shaazgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name. Yeah, see, she was a concubine, but they were trying them out, rubbing them with all sorts of oils and taking turns and, go wash yourself up, I'm done with my turn with you. I'll get back to you about what I'm going to do. This is, but it's obvious the dude didn't marry them. He, or anything like that. So this is not a moral tale. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go into the king, she required nothing but what Haggai the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken into King Ahasuerus into his royal house in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Now, perhaps some of this would be possible for the king. Maybe oiling him up between turns or something. I have so many wives, I'm going to, visit each of you at least once a year, But I'm thinking more in terms of symbolic, right? Because a lot of the kings, they practice sacred sex magic where they enact various myths that they believe in, so. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. The king then made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Esther had not yet shown her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her, for Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. In those days when Mordecai sat in the king's gate, 2 of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh of those which kept the door were wroth and sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when the inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. And these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagim, and advanced him to set his seat above all the princes that were with him, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did he give him reverence. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgresseth thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spoke daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath, and he thought to scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone. For they had showed him all the people of Mordecai. Therefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. And remember Purim's like in February, kind of like the Holly festivals.